Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, I am seriously so excited you're here because today we're unpacking something that completely flips everything we've ever been taught about self-improvement right on its head. You know how we're constantly told to pace ourselves, to find balance, and avoid burnout? Well, what if that exact advice is actually the very thing holding you back? Today, we are exposing the hidden danger of so-called rest days and exploring this absolutely fascinating architectural framework for discipline called Muku. So grab a coffee and let's dive right into this.
I want you to picture someone right now, maybe in your personal life or someone you look up to in your field. Have you noticed that person who just never seems to fail? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That frighteningly consistent individual who just shows up every single day. They completely ignore exhaustion, crazy busy schedules, and literally all of the perfectly logical excuses the rest of us use. While everyone else is sitting around rationalizing why they need a break, this person just keeps moving forward with this relentless, unstoppable rhythm.
So here's where our source material draws a massive line in the sand. The normal excuse we all fall back on is, hey, I worked hard, I need a well-deserved rest day. And honestly, it sounds harmless, right? But the scary truth this framework presents is that skipping just one day isn't a rest at all. It is an active death sentence for the new identity you're trying to build. We're going to look at exactly why this happens and, more importantly, how to stop it for good.
All right, let's get right into section 1, the danger of rest days.
To really understand this, let's talk about a guy the source material calls Nolan. Now, Nolan is a highly relatable guy. In fact, let's be real, most of us have been Nolan at some point. He's trapped in this endless, super frustrating cycle of starting a new habit. On Monday, he is highly motivated. By Wednesday, he's still working hard, just crushing his goals. But then Saturday hits, and Nolan tells himself he's earned a deserved break. He figures, you know what, I'll just pick it up on Monday. Except when that next Monday finally rolls around, the task suddenly feels twice as heavy. Why? Because that single Saturday off didn't just hit the pause button on his progress, it actively invited his excuse-making, lazy old version right back into the driver's seat. Let's break down the psychology of that failure, because it's actually fascinating. In ancient systems of discipline, there is literally no such thing as an attempt. You either are or you are not, period. When you skip a day, you are actively telling your subconscious that this shiny new identity of yours is entirely optional. It's completely reversible. You're basically creating this tiny psychological crack in your foundation, and that crack is exactly where all your old, comfortable, deeply ingrained patterns just leak right back in. To combat this, the source introduces a powerful alternative. Let's move to section 2, Muku, the endless river. But first, we really have to overcome this massive mental hurdle, which is the all-or-nothing lie. This is that toxic idea that tricks us into thinking, well, if I can't do a perfect, intense, 60-minute workout or write a perfect chapter, I just shouldn't do anything at all. This specific mindset is exactly what sets us up to take those dangerous rest days. So, to beat that all-or-nothing trap, we use an ancient Ninpo pillar called Muku, which translates directly to practice without gaps. It's heavily based on the philosophy of a river. Think about it. A river might shrink down to a tiny, slow trickle during a severe drought, or it might swell into a raging torrent during a massive storm. But you know what it never does? It never actually stops. The volume changes for sure, but the flow is continuous.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates our point. A stopped river is literally just a hole in the ground. The very second you create a gap in your practice, you aren't someone who works out who is just on a break. You are instantly someone who used to work out. The identity vanishes the moment the flow stops. The continuity itself is the entire point.
But hey, this isn't just abstract ancient philosophy. Let's look at the hard science in section 3, the neuroscience of consistency.
66. Now, this is just a random number someone pulled out of thin air. Researchers over at Kyoto University found that it takes exactly 66 days of repeating an exact sequence to make a new behavior truly automatic. We're talking as incredibly automatic as breathing or tying your shoes. But, and here is the huge catch, that 66-day window requires absolute zero-gap consistency.
So the crucial thing to understand is what actually happens at the end of those 66 days. Your brain physically shifts the behavior over to the basal ganglia. This is the part of your brain that takes over routine behaviors, and it entirely replaces your need for conscious willpower. Once the basal ganglia takes over, you don't even need motivation anymore. It just happens. But, and this is a massive but, introducing even a single gap during that initial formation phase severely interrupts this incredibly delicate neural pattern.
If you keep taking these rest days, you just stay perpetually stuck in conscious mode. You're constantly relying on massive amounts of willpower, and trust me, that tank will inevitably run empty. That is exactly why you quit. But if you refuse to miss a day, you achieve basal ganglia automation, effortless execution. You are quite literally rewiring your physical hardware to succeed, simply by refusing to allow a gap.
Okay, so how do we actually pull this off when life gets messy and chaotic? Let's dive into Section 4, Strategies for Unbreakable Habits.
Here is your ultimate survival mechanism, the reduced version. This is exactly how you defeat that all-or-nothing lie we talked about. Your focus absolutely must be on momentum, not intensity. If you wake up sick, you don't skip the gym entirely, you drop on the floor and do 10 push-ups instead of your usual 50. If you're traveling, you do 5 minutes of movement right there in your hotel room. Doing a reduced version keeps that 66-day neuro pattern totally intact, and it forcefully prevents your brain from reopening the negotiation about showing up tomorrow. You just do the thing, no matter what. To make absolutely sure you actually execute those reduced versions, we use another pillar called Zeni. This right here is our secret weapon. Zeni is the practice of prior preparation. It simply means pre-deciding your answers to obstacles long before they actually happen. Because let's be real, warriors never wait for a storm to hit before deciding what they're going to do about it. If you try to decide whether or not to work out when you're already exhausted after a long day, your brain is always going to choose the couch. Implementing Zeni is really just a simple if X, then Y framework. If your obstacle is, I'm sick, your pre-decided reduced version is 5 minutes of meditation instead of your usual 20. If you were traveling, you immediately default to a 5-minute hotel workout. No thinking required. By writing this out ahead of time, you completely automate your survival. You eliminate decision fatigue entirely, and you completely bypass your brain's natural desire to make excuses.
All right, let's lock this all in. Section 5, the public oath. Now, I do need to warn you about something. When you adopt Muku and Zeni, and you truly finally eliminate the option to skip a day, people are going to react. Normal people will probably call you obsessive for never taking a day off, but they just don't understand the truth. You aren't actually trying hard every day. It isn't a daily struggle of willpower anymore. You have simply sacrificed the version of yourself that was allowed to negotiate. That person literally just doesn't exist anymore. So right now, I challenge you to make this exact public oath in the comments below. I am a person who does insert your habit every single day for the next 100 days with 0 gaps. Type it out. By making this declaration publicly, you are actively using social survival pressure to outsmart your primitive brain. You're locking yourself in, and you're making it real.
And I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Stop waiting for that mythical perfect Monday to start. I promise you, it doesn't exist. Will you step up and kill the weak version of yourself today? Remove the gap option entirely from your life. Implement your reduced versions, and just watch who you become on the other side of those 66 days. It's going to blow your mind. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there, flow like the river, and I will see you next time.